And welcome to Pulp Mythos. I'm Brian here with Larry and Spencer, and we are talking about City on a Hill, Season 3, Episode number 3. If you've not hit the sub button, please do so. Leave a like, leave a subscribe. And House of the Dragon, Hot D, is coming up. And everyone's calling it that, too.
That's what Martin calls it.
Yes, it's great. But yeah, we'll be reviewing that starting next week. So definitely subscribe for that content. But yeah, we're talking about City on a Hill, and we were talking before I started recording, and so I'm going to jump right into that because that's on our mind, and that being sort of the Jackie Doyle stuff, because there's implications that could be something that's more important later in the season, or even if there's a fourth season. But pick up where y'all were talking about where that could be leading. And this is all the result of, the Jenny situation and it bringing Jenny's father, them getting an altercation. Jackie finds out, he gets pissed, and then he starts using the FBI to screw with Doyle. Basically threatens him, and then Doyle threatens him back.
I thought it was great that, one, we saw Doyle for what he really was. There's always been implications as to what Doyle did before coming here to the States, and he implied. I mean, he was working with the IRA, so we know that he at least has ties there. This episode, he mentioned he came from a really bad neighborhood, but there was also they dropped a hint when Jackie was talking to one of the other security people with Sinclair, his employer, and he was talking about how he put a bunch of people away in the Irish mob, and then the other security guy was telling him, "Oh, well, didn't you know that they're going to come after you anyway? You're going to be, what does he say, burping up a steak as they shoot you down or something." But yeah, they were talking about the Irish mob. So my thing is what if Doyle is either tied with them or the IRA is tied with the Irish mob here? And that's going to be because we mentioned, previously that we weren't sure how they were going to kind of reintroduce the IRA because it was such a big deal last season and we got zero closure with it. I think Doyle is how they're going to enter.
It's all a prequel to Sons of Anarchy.
Well, that would be something. That would be a surprise if it was a stealth, prequel to Sons of Anarchy. But yeah, I do think, given how much he messes with Doyle, throughout the previous seasons and now even, and the fact that we know that Doyle does have those ties, it is likely that, like the security guy said, except he wasn't implying Doyle specifically, but Jackie's just enjoying a nice steak, 2 seasons from now, and a completely ruined Doyle just, walks up to him, in the restaurant, puts a gun to his head and pulls the trigger, and that could be it for Jackie. He has this little smirk, he ruins Doyle, things seem to be going good for him, but then that happens, and it would make sense for Doyle to do that too, because he sees his family as a good family minus him. So, he sees Jackie as the only problem with Jackie's family, and he seems to really like Jenny. So, and in fact, I can't think of anybody in this show that Doyle has more reason to hate.
True. Pretty much everyone has reason to hate Jackie.
That's a good point. To the point that it could even be, since we know he carries a gun now, it could be DeCourcy that does that. He could push DeCourcy to that point.
So I'm smiling through the mic, and it's not a funny storyline, but it made me laugh, and I'll explain the reason. The whole Siobhan, the letter and her friend, and the funeral and everything. Because I'm like, dude, I know you were thinking it, because she's sitting. I had no idea. I'm sitting there trying to figure out what is this story? Where are we going with this? With the letter, she's crying, and then finally, when she confesses to her mom, it's like, I know what you did last summer. And I just
the same thing.
Bust out laughing. I'm like, oh, it's literally the plot of I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Well, you mentioned that, and then and we'll talk about this separately, I'm sure. But the person who shot the cop, like,
it was
we all did
raining and it
up.
was yes.
Yeah.
Um,
100%.
the visual of that, and it's a mystery. Who's this killer who, shoots this cop? And yeah, I don't know why. Like there was just like maybe I need to look and see who wrote this episode. Maybe they wrote that film. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting. But besides the humorous fact that it's literally the plot of I Know What You Did Last Summer. Any thoughts on that? I thought it was interesting. She was going to go confide in DeCourcy at the end, but then that was the moment where he was finally dealing with his father's death, and had the moment where he starts crying, and she stops, and doesn't tell him what she was going to tell him. So yeah, any thoughts on sort of her current storyline?
And it kind of seems like she confided in the wrong person first because, when her mom was like, well, why didn't you tell me? She's like, I thought you'd narc on me. And she's like, I would narc on you.
He's like, well, that's why I didn't tell you.
But yeah, we've been trying to, this whole season, figure out what Siobhan's story was going to be. Like you said, I didn't think it would be the plot to I Know What You Did Last Summer. I didn't think it would be we hit a guy with a car when we were kids, and now I have to deal with that. It's completely left field, and I wonder if her case still has anything to do with it, or did they just like in the writers' room just kind of decide, this whole case with the construction site that's going nowhere. Let's spin a different story for Siobhan.
Well, it could be her undoing. She's trying to run. It's not necessarily political office yet, but she's kind of spinning that route where she's trying to do the pro bono kind of work, and she's trying to do all these things to change the world. And she is, I think it's going to come back to bite her in the ass, because I think this story is going to come out. And I think that DeCourcy is going to have to choose whether or not to stand by her. And even without the I Know What You Did Last Summer kind of vibe, Siobhan just, I don't like her character. Like, I think that she is bad and toxic for DeCourcy. And I think that with this story coming up, it's going to be the thing that makes him choose how to go forward as far as with her.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I had mentioned earlier that I thought hopefully he'll end up with that other assistant DA. Clearly, that's not going to happen.
Well, yeah, because I was thinking immediately the worst thing in the world she could do is tell him about it. I would no, don't tell him. Don't put him in that weird spot. It's a secret. Take it to the grave. To hell with all that shit. That's just. I mean, look.
It's been a while. Yeah, it will tank his career. Also, that sort of scandal. Absolutely. But I do feel like now that I mentioned it, I was curious how what any of this had to do with the whole construction site thing. But maybe they find out. Maybe she does leave it sort of semi unresolved. But they're trying to use that to blackmail Siobhan. They know that she did that. The guy who owns the construction site and everything, that he's holding this over her head. It could be that, or they could have completely abandoned that plot line, or it could be like loosely, maybe completely unrelated for all we know. But that may be a good way to spin it, is have them have that bit of leverage. She goes to see the guy, he's still bitter, and so he looks into her life, and he uses this against her. Like he tells the guy that she's litigating against about the whole situation.
I thought I knew where most of the stories were going, and then we had this murder mystery now at the end. I did not see that coming. So the cop that killed a cop, and then now he's killed by a figure in a raincoat. Chris is being questioned for it. The guy did look pretty tall. I don't know that Chris did it. if he did do it, he would have not done it sloppy. So, it's in terms of what firearm he used and all that. So I don't know. Clearly, that cop, even on that single scene, where he's shaking down this kid, I'm sure he had enemies. But the way that played out almost felt like an execution or a hit. So I don't know. Any theories on that? Maybe it's DeCourcy. He's the vigilante.
Well, there was a line when DeCourcy was talking to the preacher that was from the neighborhood.
Oh yeah.
He talked about I don't remember the exact words. He talked about basically sometimes he's got to not be vengeful. It was insinuating that he has to take shit into his own hands. And so I was thinking immediately that it was him. And I'll have to look it up to see what the exact line was, but it was insinuating that he may have been involved in the cop dying, not the person who's currently in.
Oh shit! So you think maybe he's taken out bad cops? He killed the cop that Curtis Whitaker is being charged for, and maybe he also killed this cop.
Correct. And
that's an interesting thought. Yeah.
Well, I and that could be it too. Like, because maybe dude isn't so sloppy that he'd actually kill a fellow cop in the middle of a bust that they're doing. It could have been him framing him, like you said. Maybe he had his gun and everything, and because there's clearly a grudge there. He said he's messed with members of his congregation, so yeah, that does add up. You could see the hate in his face when they mentioned the man.
And on top of that, when the kid runs away, my immediate thought would be that they already said that they weren't going to snitch prior. All the other people who were in the neighborhood who could have spoke on the, I don't remember the person who was accused. What'd you say his name was, Brian?
Curtis Whitaker.
Curtis. That could have spoke on Curtis's behalf didn't. So that to me is implicating that they're trying to protect someone. So I don't know that the whole neighborhood knows that it's the preacher, but to me, it's showing that they know it's somebody, and they kind of see whoever this person is as their, archangel, their Michael, and he's
Spawn.
He's protecting them from these evil cops. So the kid who was getting shook down and basically being extorted for selling drugs and then saying, "Hey, you owe me a piece." When he saw the "I know what you did last summer" outfit, he looked at it and was like, "Oh shit," and then took off running. But to me, he's not going to come forward. He's not going to say anything, and that's going to keep kind of building this story of this vigilante who's taking out these bad cops.
Well, I think it's more one of those neighborhoods where people just don't snitch, and
100%.
But yeah, I do agree with your theory that it could be
vengeance.
Yeah, it could be the priest. That would make sense. Because he's mentioned run-ins with the guy and how bad he is and what a menace he is to the community, and that's also the same priest that in prior seasons mentioned that he was involved in like gang-related things. Yep. So if anybody, it would be him that would see like, well, I'll do this one thing for the greater good. This man's a menace. He's never going to stop. Somebody's got to stop him.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a possibility. I mean, like you said, that this is a character that's been around a while. He's not, he's not new this season, and I think that's an interesting story. Him out there trying to clean up the streets in his own way, and then if it does come to light, and DeCourcy, is able to figure it out, that puts him in an interesting spot as far as how is he going to handle it. Yeah, he's always put in those weird morality spots.
That is kind of DeCourcy's role on the show,
yes.
So it would make sense, and it would also be betrayal of a friend, of someone who's helped him and his wife out throughout the years, and in order to serve justice, against a guy who took out a guy who's an absolute piece of shit.
Yep. So Jackie, good old Jackie, had a couple little things going on this episode. We sort of had the the taking the daughter to college stuff, which was all great. Him getting emotional. I love the condom scene. That cracked me up. I just love the kid was like, "This is a lose lose." Like, what was I gonna do? And Jackie's just like, "Yeah." Then we get sort of Jackie's frustration with the Ginny stuff and her father and Doyle, and then finally we get Jackie and Letitia and sort of him becoming part of their weird thing. So he's sort of her boyfriend now. Going back a couple episodes, remember she had gotten in a altercation with her tennis instructor, who was sort of her boyfriend at that time. Now Jackie's sort of the new boyfriend. Sinclair's aware of it. It's open, but Jackie saw Sinclair with the woman that he brought into the house, and she definitely seemed under the influence. And Jackie is clever enough, and you could see it in his face to notice it's not, she just didn't have too many drinks. Something else seems odd. And so clearly Jackie is more and more piecing things together. He was asking Letitia a ton of questions about Dominique, and he's still somewhat investigating. He's he's in there. Thoughts on where this story is going?
I think there's a lot of implications with what he's seeing. Like you said, when he saw the new FBI recruit stumbling around, he knows it hadn't been that long. Him and Letitia, when they went upstairs and stuff, it wasn't. I mean, that girl would have had to been chugging some hard alcohol to be that fucked up that quick. So I think he knows immediately that something is off with her. Also, just Jackie in general, I could not stop laughing because he portrayed a cheating spouse perfectly. Because as soon as the stuff happened, after even the kiss, not even the sex part, he started firing at Jenny over and over. And Jenny hadn't even done anything. I mean, I think that they're implicating that she's gonna do something, but she hadn't done anything yet. And immediately they're him flying off the handle at her and being, "What are you talking about? Why don't you trust me? What are you doing? What are you doing? Did you do something with them?" And that's a normal cheating significant other, because that's it doesn't have to be a spouse, but a cheating significant other who immediately starts throwing blame.
Mm-hmm.
It's 100% indicative of that, and it made me laugh because it was so well portrayed that a lot of the stuff he was flying off the handle at Jenny for had nothing to do with anything. He's just acting out because he feels guilty. And I think that, like you said, when he was in bed with Letitia, I've already said her name different 4 times, but when he was in bed with her and was speaking to her, he is piecing together that she's just as guilty. And when you look at all the things that she said, that she's literally there because she was poor and she feels like this is a better life. She never wants to go hungry again. And I'm like, God damn. So she's throwing these people basically to the wolves so that she can fucking eat caviar and have nice things. I'm like, she's just as evil. She's just as big a piece of shit.
Right.
But Jackie is, I think after that, now he feels worse for what he did. I think that he felt bad because he, betrayed Jenny, but I think that he feels 100 times worse now knowing what kind of person she is.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, this was the episode that pieced it together for me all the way from season 1, his behavior and everything. I was like, oh, because we saw in recent seasons, him progressively get sweeter towards his wife, and I figured, okay, that's him making amends and this and that and etc. And he's like, oh no, the shitty person that he is to his wife, that's only when he, like you said, when he's guilty. And season 1, he was cheating, he had a mistress and everything, and she was pregnant and this and that. So we got to know a Jackie Rohr who was guilty from day one, and we couldn't tell that was why he behaves that way because he's deflecting. But yeah, it kind of pieces that together. It's going full circle in a sense, and yeah, like you said, his detective skills are definitely kicking in. There's no way he can ignore that. I'm pretty sure he saw that scenario with God, I forgot what his name. You said her name so many ways that
Sinclair is
yeah,
the husband.
Sinclair. But I was about to call my brain was about to call him Gomez because you almost said Morticia at one point. So
Morticia.
Letitia, so but yeah, he knows what Sinclair did because of his training and everything. And I think that he was okay with the idea of he's going to sleep with her to get he's going to make some moves in order to get her to get this recommendation to get the job, and because Jackie's still a shitty person, right? So he's okay with that, but he's not okay with him going as far as to drug her.
He's living his best life. New cars, got a little girlfriend on the side, getting paid well. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, absolutely. And it's still Jackie Rohr, so he's still shitty, and there's still a lot of shitty behavior that he condones. But when he saw that he was drugged, that's a step too far for him.
Yeah.
Well, it's not just a cheating spouse or somebody making a poor decision. Like he's raping.
Yeah.
And Jackie is when people are left to their own devices, I don't think that he gets mad about it because it's like, I think he just looks at it as all these people are making stupid decisions. That's on them, whatever. But when it's like that, we've talked about it previously, that he ties it back to what happened with his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So that these females are not able to make a decision, and they're all young, and they're getting drugged and raped by Sinclair. I think that he is going to see his daughter's situation in this, and it's not a situation where they're complicit in what's going on.
And what still makes Jackie shitty, and honestly, you can cut this if the algorithm's gonna flag the episode, is he's okay with his boss being Harvey Weinstein. He's just not okay with him being Jeffrey Epstein is the thing. And and that's where the line is for Jackie.
No, I only laugh because I'm curious to how I'm going to leave it in. I just want to
see if they flag
it's like zero views.
That's the truth. You got to dance around your words too much with this machine now. I could say that at work. Just
but yeah, true. Very true. And it's going to be interesting to see. Like I said, I thought we were going to dive head first into sort of this storyline. That was going to be completely the central focus, but all the other stuff's finally starting to happen with the Chris storyline. Like we were saying an episode ago, is he sort of a main character now? And it's like, yeah, sort of. Yet again, he had a lot of screen time this episode, and this whole. Now we have this vigilante. Well, we're assuming vigilante, killing these cops, and so, DeCourcy's going to be front and center on that. And then that's going to tie into Jackie Rohr as well. So, yeah, it's been interesting seeing where the show is headed.
Well, I think we have because we were trying to piece that together too, because we figured that their plot lines would sort of converge at some point. I guess we know how Chris and DeCourcy's plot lines will overlap because DeCourcy will now, the case will be about Chris and, did he do this? And DeCourcy will clearly be on that case.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, he'll be heavily tied. I'm just curious if there's any evidence or anything that would even legitimately point towards Chris. And they didn't tell us, at least in this episode.
I don't think that there has to be anything specific just yet, because look at what happened by the elevator area. Look at what happened outside the police station when the dude was giving him shit. The fact that Chris went up and punched
he attacked him.
Yeah. And there's been like 3 or 4 run-ins where they've had altercations going back and forth. Everything that happened at the shootout when they were trying to arrest that gentleman, and the the person who just died killed another cop for snitching. So it's all of these things would implicate that it is Chris. I still think it's the preacher. But
Yeah, the biggest reason I think you're right. I think you're 100% right, and I did not piece that together.
I wouldn't have pieced that together, but
it
does
all
work.
works because it ties even to the Curtis storyline and it being that preacher and some of the things he said to DeCourcy. But how the hell it would have to be someone like that, and I say that because who the hell would have known that cop was there in that spot? You know what I'm saying? Like, he's chased. First of all, he's jumping. It's not like he was on his route. He's jumping fences. He's chasing down this kid, to get drugs and money. So it's like, I mean, Chris could potentially be stalking him.
But yeah, he'd have to tell him the whole time, though. Yeah,
you have to know exactly, where he's going. Where if you have someone who's sort of in the streets, knows what's going on, knows when pickups are being done, he would know.
Well, yeah, exactly. And the pastor has a reputation on the streets to some degree, and heck, he possibly even talked it over with somebody, to some degree, or the kid maybe saw the looks that the pastor, was giving that cop. Well, my point being also, like, if the kid saw another cop at a distance with a gun, if he saw Chris, because Chris is constantly in that neighborhood too, he would just assume that it was backup for other guy. He wouldn't have freaked out the way he did.
That's a good point. So
yeah, also, I just kind of feel like it's someone we've seen already because it's a very smartly written show, and those are the only other hints we've gotten, other than the fact that he's kind of pissed off the whole neighborhood.
I know what you did last summer. I was laughing so hard. Like I said, because I'm sitting there like, okay, what is it? I'm trying to piece it together, and when she opens the letter and she's crying, I'm like, oh shit, what? And I'm like, okay, what could it be? And then when she's like, she's describing the whole story, I'm like, oh shit, that's literally the plot.
I hope that's how Jackie gets back in the fold. He's like, you owe me a favor, DeCourcy. I took care of that guy in the raincoat for your wife.
The guy with the hook.
He looked like a sea captain.
But yeah, it's only been 3 episodes. I when I was writing the notes, when I had to write a 3, I was like, I could have swore it was 4 or 5 episodes.
Yeah.
But no, 3 episodes. Great season so far, as good as the previous 2. Very excited to see where it's going. Yeah, hell of a show. Like I said, we are going to be doing the Game of Thrones stuff. Very excited about that. Any other thoughts on City on a Hill?
Not new theory wise. I'm just excited to see where they're going forward because in the preview for the next episode, there's a lot of apparently my computer needs an update. There's a lot of implications where this is headed, but the whole Sinclair knowing, the Sinclair being like, hey, I saw what you did with my wife. You may have saw this lady, but so I think that we're going to see how much Jackie cares if Jenny knows what's going on. I mean, she already knows that he's cheating. Like, it's not a new thing that has occurred, but I'm curious as to if he's going to take out Sinclair himself because, not just because he doesn't want Jenny to know, but because he, self-preservation on top of Sinclair being a piece of shit. So I am curious as to how much Jackie's conscience plays into this or how much his self-preservation plays into this. So I'm curious. That's what I'm most curious about so far is who the I Know What You Did Last Summer person is and Jackie's story going forward.
Yeah, I hope they flag us for your phone tone and not the thing I said earlier.
Hope it's just the phone tone.
It's just the phone, yeah. But yeah, same here. I'm curious how everything else converges if it does. Like I said, I have no other theories, but the thing you said about the priest, that makes a lot of sense, and that's probably it. You probably figured that out way earlier than they expected most people to.
Yeah, I think that's it. I'll be surprised if it's not.
I'm gonna look it up, and I'll tell you I'll post in the comments what the exact line was. But it was literally just like one line of dialogue that he said, and I was like, "Oh shit!" And I immediately thought it was him.
Well, yeah, and I thought maybe like during that scene, you know, I didn't think it was going to go there. I thought that we had hints that the community was going to get sick of it, and that that potentially his behavior or something he did may cause a riot, or other people in the community to attack him and the unit and whatnot. I didn't think that okay, this priest is going to assassinate him, but it seems pretty cut and dry that may be it. And like Brian said, if that's not it by now, I'd be surprised.
Yeah, completely. But yeah, great episode. Appreciate everyone listening, and we'll see y'all next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Stay woke.